how do you get those corrected that quickly? Is it simply a fundamental issue with him, or is this something that's kind of beyond correcting and you're going to have to live with it and model your game around him in order to advance the ball?
Yeah, excellent question. And, I appreciate you acknowledging the work that he has put in. And what I would do is I would echo that, but I would take it a step further. I think that's what makes Saturday so disappointing, certainly for him, certainly for any of us. And frankly, I did not think it was reflective of what I'd seen in practice dating back to spring, right? April, spring ball, end of March. So, I'd tie it back into my last answer, and I'd say this. I think what's very important for him to understand, for any of us to understand, is that, I referenced it being a 12-game season. Really, you're not talking about 70 plays. You're talking about 840 plays, right? You're not talking about 25 attempts. You're talking about 300 attempts. You're talking about a body of work. And the key is understanding that there's a process. And I thought he had taken a lot of steps forward. But the reality is, right, when we go out and practice in April, probably as a group and individually, our worst practice was our first practice. And then we improved. And same thing, when you come back into fall camp, your first practice wasn't your best practice. Hopefully you're improving each and every day out there. I think the gut reaction is to panic, but what you can't do is that. You have to look at it and say, this is a 12-game season. What we need to do is find a way to improve from week 1 to 2. And let's make sure that some of those fundamental things that we had corrected, that we had worked through in the offseason, we can go ahead and push those through into a game environment. And the reality is, when his feet were set and he was delivering the ball the way he should, there weren't any issues. When the fundamentals weren't quite there, there were issues. And I think it gets delved into and analyzed at the quarterback position, and rightfully so. But the reality is, for any of the 11 guys on the field, on either side of the ball or on teams, that's what's always going to come down to. It's going to come down to fundamental issues and just general basics of football and technical expertise.
Coach, the next question comes from John Steppe, the Gazette.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Doing well, John.
So obviously Spencer's stat line was not great, 44% completion, 1 interception. How much of that do you attribute to him and his fundamental kind of issues that happened on Saturday versus the offensive line not giving him a ton of protection and kind of other shortcomings on the offense?
Yeah, well, it's like I said earlier, John, we all have a hand when things don't go well. We all have a hand in it. And the beauty of football is it's a team sport. I think the quarterback position is unique from this standpoint. You're out there, right? So it is a team sport, but you're going to be the face of the offense. And when things are good, you're going to reap the rewards of that. And when things are bad, you're going to shoulder the blame. And that's part of the responsibility of playing that position. Certainly it's part of the responsibility of coordinating the offense, right? So when things aren't going well, trust me, it's my fault. The buck stops with me. I think the quarterback position is similar from the guys that are on the field, right? So what I would tell you is the expectation is very simple for all 11 players on the field. We all need to do our job, right? If you're one of the guys on the field, you need to do your job. If you're the right tackle and your job is to block the defensive end, we expect you to do that. But if you're the quarterback and your job is to deliver the football on time and in rhythm, then we expect you to do that, right? And what I would tell you is this: whether the right tackle is blocking the heck out of that defensive end or not, it shouldn't matter to the quarterback, the same way that whether or not the quarterback, is delivering the ball on time, in rhythm, and with accuracy, shouldn't matter to the right tackle. So, you ask to, what percentage, it's hard to say, frankly. I felt like after watching the tape, the majority of that game, we had ample opportunity in the pocket to deliver the ball and do what we needed to do as far as making the read and getting the ball out to the correct guy on time. So is the protection perfect? No. But if you're waiting around for perfect protection, you're going to be sorely, you're not going to be happy with it ever, right? So I would just tell you this: I think a solution is very simple. We all need to do our job better at the end of the day, and that's really what we're focusing on right now.
Next question, Coach, comes from Corey Bratta, Story County News.
Coach Brian, appreciate you taking the time, first of all, for this Zoom call. I do appreciate access. I'm not going to surprise you or shock you. I'm going to stick with the quarterback. I'm just curious. You obviously are not naive to the fans that are calling for a change at quarterback, and that's been the case for some time. Talked about that during the offseason. But given your comfort level with all four guys, and I know this is somewhat hypothetical, but what would it take to necessitate a change in your mind in the game? Talk about just Saturday, for instance. What would it take? Would it take an injury to Spencer? Would it be a plethora of picks? What do you think it would take?
Yeah, Corey, I appreciate the question, but I got to tell you, I don't want to get into hypotheticals. The goal every week is very simple. We're trying to win the football game. And so the decisions that we make throughout the course of a game, throughout the course of a week, throughout the course of a season, they simply come down to what we feel gives us the best chance to win. And the reality is, we've seen both quarterbacks play. Both guys have played well. Both guys probably have times in their career they wish they had back. With Spencer, we can look as recently as a few days ago. But the reality is they've both demonstrated that they can do it. And what we need to do is find consistency at that position. I can just assure you that what we're going to do is we're going to continue to go with the guy, whomever that is, whenever that is, that's going to give us the best chance to win football games. And it goes back to my answer to John a second ago. Ultimately, we need everyone doing their job. And the job at quarterback is pretty well defined. So, at the end of the day, the standard is that you do your job. If we're not doing our job, then either we got to make changes and find someone who can, or we got to change the definition of what the job is.
Next question, Coach. Chad Leistico, Des Moines Register.
Hey, Brian, I have one question before my real question. It's
So is this a fake question?
no, it's a
Warm-up question.
A warm-up question.
Okay.
Did you want to come out and talk today, or did you just get drawn the short straw of the first guy here? Because it's obviously a very heated week out there in the outside. I was just curious if you wanted to speak to what happened last week here or not. And then
I was, I happened to be up.
Okay.
And, ultimately, look, my responsibility is to stand in front of you guys and be accountable for what we do. So there's really nowhere to hide, in my opinion. So if I'm up, I'm up. And certainly I wish it was after a better week. I wish I was coming out here and we were talking about how great we were. But the reality is it'd be somewhere in the middle there too. So, this is what it is right now, as some people I know would say.
Okay, gotcha. And then just secondly, and when you have the offensive line issues that certainly showed up on tape as well, how much advantage could a more mobile quarterback potentially give you short term in that situation? Is that something you guys analyzed this week in terms of a decision?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's absolutely a fair question, right? And so what we're trying to do is, again, like I said before, you're evaluating what are you asking guys to do, and the reality is, like I said, whether there are protection issues or not, do we have ample time to deliver the ball and get it where it needs to be? And if the answer to that was just simply no, 95% of the time, then I think we would have to evaluate where we wanted to go moving forward. But even when the protection's not clean, decisions need to be made faster. The ball needs to be released faster. And that's the bottom line.